Yo, what is up, everybody? Episode 52, Mindset episode. We're gonna talk about some really serious stuff in this episode. But first, drop that beat. Anna, Glenn, how are you?
Hey, Ken.
Hello.
We're good.
How are we doing?
I think we're pretty good. I think we're making it.
Yeah.
This is a serious episode, so we're not going to make any jokes. We're not going to talk about anything laughing. No laughing matters.
I know.
Just serious.
I feel like I always end up snickering, giggling, or just laughing out loud within the first 10 seconds of every episode because you guys are funny.
Or throwing some random joke that me and Ken have to really think about to...
Some
make our brains work and function.
Yeah, that's some figure of speech.
Too smart for us.
Some riddle, some word.
Yeah,
exactly. And then some
Sounds
pop
like you
culture.
guys know me.
Some pop culture reference that I don't get.
Oh, that's my favorite. I'm just now. Anytime I hear a pop culture reference, I think, would Ken get that?
Yeah.
No Seinfeld today. No Seinfeld.
Yeah. Before I could just laugh it off, and then now Anna just looks at me and it's like, did he get that, or he's just faking it? And then now she just knows that I faked it.
Play along like you get it.
Yeah, that's
It's a survival skill.
It's a survival skill for an immigrant that didn't grow up here.
You're like, oh yeah, haha, Sandlot. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Shallow Hal. I watched it last week. Did you watch it, Ken?
No, what is that?
We just
That's
talked
one
about
that's
it on the
come
podcast.
up before. Yeah.
Tony Robbins.
Oh yeah, Tony Robbins. Oh my god.
That's why it came up.
Yeah, that's why it came
Well, that's
up.
perfect for a mindset episode.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
Very true.
We should get good at impressions and do a whole episode as in character as someone like Tony
man,
Robbins.
that'd be tough.
Glenn knows how to.
Are you
impersonate.
secretly really good at impressions?
Yeah, he is.
I can try. I could try to do that Gary V squeaky. Just kidding. I'm not gonna do that one.
No, you can't. Come on now.
You can. We'll try to figure out what.
Leave Gary Vee alone. The guy is still grinding, man.
He is. He was on Whatnot earlier.
Oh, he
selling
was?
cards. He was selling cards.
Really?
Yeah. Dude. And man, talk about a personality that fits the platform. That he probably would quit being a CEO and be like, I'm just gonna be a streamer now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you how it's done in 2024. Get off your couch and turn the cell phone on and sell stuff around your house you don't need. Are you kidding me?
No, that was a good impression.
Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me?
No expletives. That's good. It's a family friendly
Oh,
show.
Family friendly.
Yeah, family friendly. Yeah.
All right. So beyond the bills, Kenny, this is your topic. So.
No. So, Anna, preface how this all came along.
Okay, well, every once in a while we have a good old fashioned brainstorm about topics or just general things going on in our lives that we're like, oh, that'd be a good episode. This was actually Glenn's idea.
Yeah.
He didn't necessarily name it Beyond the Bills, but it's a great topic because I think it really gets to the heart of our purpose and kind of our choices about how we spend our time, which is our life.
Right.
So basically the fundamental question is, if all of your bills were paid, like money were no object, pretend you were for by whatever mechanism, maybe you're a trust fund baby, right?
Okay.
And you have enough money for your whole life, all of your basic needs are covered, all your bills are paid. Would you keep doing what you're doing?
This is an interesting question because I thought about Glenn right off the rip when we came up with this title, and I was like, man, I wonder if he's gonna stream more and whatnot.
Where would Glenn channel all of his consistency if it wasn't into a business?
True.
Yeah, that is true.
What does he do?
Because beyond the bills, right? I think I've spoken to a lot of people asking them the questions like, why do you do what you do? And a lot of people say, I have bills to pay, right? Like, I think a lot of that's kind of it's a very Western answer actually, right? Is that correct? I gotta work because I got bills to pay. So it feels like it's kind of like a built-in line.
It's the rat race, right?
Right, and
the bills never stop coming.
And I don't know who invented that, but at some point...
But I don't like it. And here's the thing, though. Kenny is good that, like when we would go to restaurants and Ken's asking the waiter and waitresses questions about their life and what excites them every day. These are the conversations we need. And truthfully, I hate the little small talk. Like, hey, how's work? Oh, it's good. Hey, how's life?
Yeah.
Oh, it's fine. I'm like, this leads nowhere. Let's get into the deep conversations.
Yeah.
Pointless. Yeah.
Exactly.
So over the weekend, I was at I went and visited Anna. She had a housewarming, and we were there, and she had a bunch of friends, and a lot.
It was so fun. It was really a party for all the people who busted their butts helping us move.
That's what it was,
including
so,
Ken, because they came.
Yeah, so that's why Glenn wasn't
Mm-hmm.
there, because he didn't help Anna move.
Yeah, you weren't invited.
So I was there, and I was like, that's what I felt, Glenn. Like, I felt like I was in a restaurant full of random people, because like, I mean,
You
know,
were.
like,
You didn't know any of my friends.
yeah, and then Anna's deep into, like, they've had years of relationships, and especially going back to her hometown, so she's known these people. And then I always say, Anna's like, hey, who's this one? Oh, this is the one that, that lives next door. Oh, who's this one? Oh, this is the one that made that pickle jam, smoked jelly.
Yeah, pepper jelly, baby. So
yeah,
good.
answer. Tell Glenn about this product. I think you might like this.
Oh, the
He likes
pepper jelly?
Yeah.
Oh, this is so legit. So my good friend, I could tell you all the hometown connections we have, but we're good friends first and foremost. She, I will say one. I was actually in her wedding. So when I was still a junior or senior in high school, I was in her wedding. She's a little older than me, but she and her husband started a company called Smokehouse Jellies, and they smoke all the fruit like in a smoker, like blackberries or peaches, or there's all kinds of different fruit. They have a bunch of different kinds, and then they add habaneros to it and make jelly. So it's like smoky and kind of spicy. Yeah, and like
sweet
super
and spicy, and
amazing flavor.
We definitely have to get Glenn this one.
I know.
I'm sure it's all vegan, right?
Yeah,
it's
is.
Fruits and peppers, like. And
No, yeah, I gotta try this.
Yeah, it's so good.
So I saw it, right?
I've actually helped run their booth at like vendor events and stuff before, so I can like give you the whole spiel. But it's literally so good. So I had the blackberry one at this housewarming party, and we were all
speaks for itself.
So I saw it,
so
and
good.
I was like, I saw some brie cheese and some apples, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna try this one. And then the product was so good, I was like, I can't wait for this people to come through, because I was like, the product's good. I was like, I'm gonna ask them.
Invest. Look at this guy. He hasn't even met him yet.
They would love to hear that.
No, for real.
It was
like,
awesome though.
No.
Like they came straight from looking at a building that they were considering buying to like put in a commercial.
Yeah,
kitchen and, like,
so
scale up
they're
their
trying to
operation.
like grow Glenn.
Yeah.
And then I just literally leaned over and I was like, what's his name?
Ryan.
Forgive me. Ryan? Mm-hmm. And I was just literally grilling him. And Ryan's like just straight shooter too.
He is. He's
like
awesome.
he doesn't weave in his answers, he just says it. And I just start asking him, like, so like, like what happens when you lose the passion of doing something that you really like because you've done it for so long. And we just literally like kind of like circled and had a conversations around that, because a lot of times talking about bills, right, you have something you do to pay the bills, but quote unquote the dream is to do something you love and get paid for it, then you're living the dream. But once you're doing it, I could tell you from experience, for the first few years it is the dream, but after that there is a point of fading of,
like,
then
the
this is me
shininess
as a
is worn off.
personality.
Yeah.
The sweetness falls off, the excitement of new thing, because it's not new, and there's like levels to it, right? Okay, kind of just like, okay, buying sneakers, right? You start buying $100 sneakers, and just as a collector, it's like, oh, this is amazing. Then you spend $200, then you spend $300, 4 or 5, and then at one point I spent like $1,500, and I couldn't. It was a point that I could never wear the shoe anymore, because in my mind there was just that blockage, like, yo, like if you wear this,
Too risky.
you can only sell this for $1,000.
Yeah.
It's like there's a quick depreciation of a used rare pair compared to the brand new rare pair. And And I, going back to the original statement, I think it's a good and bad thing, because the thing that you once loved doing, if money is attached to it and money becomes a measure of success to something that you love, at what point do you lose that excitement? Because all of a sudden, if you've reached your money goal and the next steps are way bigger, and next steps are, let's just say for them, right? Like, okay, you started at a house, you started at a rented facility, now you're thinking about purchasing a giant warehouse. That's a huge leap,
Yeah.
right? And then like, I'm thinking about myself, like I started my bedroom and my 2-bedroom apartment, now at this house, and then you take a big leap, like what's the next step? Like warehouse? And then now I'm thinking about it, like, wow, like that's a lot. I mean, me and Glenn have conversations like, you're gonna be a manager basically, right?
Yeah.
Like you're
At a
gonna be a
certain point.
manager of your business that you love doing, but at the end of the day, you really don't get to do what you love now because you're just telling people what to do. So that's the kind of like, the question that, like, wait, so if we're here to pay the bills, will we keep doing what we're doing if everything's paid off? Now, I mean, obviously there's levels to it. What's your that was just the intro, guys.
There's layers to this cake.
Huh?
So many layers, 7
There's
layers.
so many layers to this cake.
That was just the kind of like the foundational ingredients. So we just like talked about the eggs, the flour, the sugar. Glenn, what's your take on that one?
I was just thinking about like at the party, I guess. Like I'm pretty sure Anna's friends are like, "Who's this Filipino spy asking all these questions?"
No, everyone's like, is this the sneaker one? Is this the, is this a bee?
I was
Everyone's heard of him.
I was minimized to a shoe that people put on their feet,
Or an insect.
a little itty bitty insect. So
That was your
so-
choice.
Yeah, so when they saw me, like they were impressed. Oh, this guy doesn't smell like a bee. And number 2, this guy
He
doesn't
doesn't
sting
smell
like
like
a
a
bee.
bee?
He stings
So
like a bee.
yeah, so
That's
I had the edge. Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
I
Well,
like there's got to be a new tagline in there for you somewhere. I love it.
So this is a good question, and it's kind of funny that you mentioned this because, so this next payment will be my last on this house.
Oh my gosh,
Wow.
you buried the lead, Glenn.
I
That is
know.
huge.
Wow.
So,
So this guy don't have bills? What in the world?
so I don't have any bills, but I'm kind of confused on what. I am kind of in a weird situation to where I'm like, hey, well, I mean, I technically don't have to go hard in the paint on what not to sell or
Yeah.
on eBay, really. I mean, I could kind of slow down.
You could
But
just
then
be a Hollywood actor now.
Actor. But I'm kind of like, what should I do? Or like, what? I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
It is kind of confusing. Like what Ken said, it's kind of good and it's kind of bad in a way. I don't know.
Well, it can be kind of disorienting, right? Because you're
Yeah.
like, this was a no-brainer for so long because like you said, like I got bills to pay, like we all got bills to pay, except for Glenn apparently now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Not
have
next
any
week.
utilities
Next week,
at your
you-
house.
yeah, next
That
week.
one never
Next week,
stops.
True, that
consistency
one
out
never
the door.
But let me give you some options, which I'm sure you've already thought about all these options. But for the sake of the conversation, it's like, okay, like let's just play it out a little bit. Let's say that it's not that you don't have bills, it's just that they're covered. They're like indefinitely covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you won't have unexpected expenses, elective expenses. Maybe you want to see the world. Maybe you want to leave a giant legacy of wealth for your kids. Like, you know, like there's other goals that you might have that are still financial outside of making sure that you have like a baseline of security with all
Right.
of your bills getting paid.
Yeah.
So, you know, and being like a business person, I imagine that a lot of those things have been in your mind, right? Like even as you've been approaching this for a while.
Yeah.
Still such a huge, amazing milestone. Like that's so great. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Well, I feel like it's kind of like when I first paid off my student loans, though, because that was my main goal to start
Yeah.
off with was like give value back on the YouTube channel, pay off the student loans.
Yeah.
And when I did pay them off, it almost felt like nothing happened, right? Like you paid it, like, you know, no one was congratulating me.
You didn't get a
Sally
medal
Mae
or
wasn't
something like
giving
that, right?
me
Yeah,
a plaque. Hey,
Sally Mae
Here
was
you
probably
go.
kind of sour about it, if we're being
Yeah.
honest.
You
All the
know, like
interest we could have
nothing.
made.
Exactly, like nothing changed there, and it felt very weird because, you know, you feel proud of it, but in reality, you just keep going,
Well,
and
yeah. And with goals, like 90% of enjoyment is anticipation.
yeah,
So
exactly.
That's true. It's a
once
journey,
you reach
right?
it, it's
Yeah.
like, now what? You know,
Yeah.
like that's, which is a really disorienting and
that
totally
is.
normal experience for people when they
Yeah.
actually hit their goals.
Yeah, that is a real question. What about you, Anna? What's your intro to this?
My intro to this. Well, I think it immediately makes me think of a conversation I've had over and over with a lot of friends who do quote unquote like artistic things for a living.
Okay,
Like maybe
yeah.
they're musicians, they're you know,
Okay.
they play live for a living, or they're painters or
So
fine
they're
arts.
not very kind of like the typical
Well,
fixed income,
right.
Or are
9 to
they
5
fixed
type
income?
Maybe
of
so,
thing.
but more so the angle of like when you put the pressure on your art to provide for you,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
how
Well,
that
the-
kind of changes your relationship to it.
Yep,
But you know,
I've heard about that. Yeah.
I think that can somewhat be expanded to the general idea of like things
Yeah.
that you're passionate about. But for me, I mean, I love this question because like I have grown to like really love eBay and like totally nerded out about e-commerce and, you know, the lifestyle stuff that comes with selling mostly used things online. But honestly, like I did not start it because I was just so passionate about selling stuff on the internet. Like it was totally a means to an end. And
it was like a side gig to
Yeah.
fuel what you were doing.
yes, and
Right.
like I've grown to love it. But even today, even though I have grown to love it in a way I never expected to,
Right.
it still is providing me with like flexibility and
Yeah.
mental bandwidth and creativity that I otherwise just wouldn't have the capacity for to
If
do
you
things that
had
don't
to,
pay
like,
me.
yeah,
So
okay.
so I am partially living it already.
So you have like
Mhm.
a higher ROI of return for your time investment on
Yeah.
the e-commerce. I think that's all of us that
Yeah.
are starting a business, that is in a business, because in some way we are reaping the benefits of like external factors, like you said,
Yeah.
bandwidth, right? Like I don't have
Right.
like Glenn's experience. I don't have to worry about coworkers not doing their part. Then it burdens me, or having to answer with bosses. For me, like my experience about like bit just the hitting glass ceilings in a corporate world where you have to like do all the external factors to even get considered to get promoted. Like I didn't want that side of it.
Yeah.
But that is true. Like when you put pressure of an art, right? Like I see business as creativity, right? It's a creative way of making a living. And if you put pressure, it could turn into a diamond and shine and provide for you. For example, like Glenn's huge milestone that's coming up, he literally put pressure on this thing,
Yeah.
and poof, it became a house, right? Like a paid off house. Poof, it became a paid off student loan.
Just that
um,
easy, Glenn.
No.
No.
It's like, so now Glenn's scaring me of me paying off my house fast.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pay off my house fast. I'm just gonna pay off
Yeah.
everything and leave the house and slow.
Depends on your interest rate. That's a whole other
Yeah.
podcast.
Oh no. Anna, stop. Like this is
Stop,
not about
stop.
numbers. This is
Stop,
about
Stop
health. Like mental health and really finding our own purpose. So okay,
Yeah.
let's move on. Let's move on to
Yeah.
we
Well-
gave our intros.
Yeah. So I think like I want to ask you guys this, just like thinking about your daily life and how you actually spend your time.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, I mean, I'm sure it varies across all of us, like how much of our daily life we actually spend on our businesses. And it varies, individually too. Like
Right.
one day does not necessarily look like the next, except for Glenn, king of consistency. But like just think about, I want you to think about this from like from the perspective of what's a day in your life look like
Right.
if all your bills are like not a concern for you.
Okay, Anna, let me caveat to it. Because on your day in your life, I want to ask us three before we probably dive in deeper is, what's the favorite task or event in your day that you have fell in love the most recently, probably let's say last 6 months. Because obviously all of us have kind of like gone through phases, and I think 3 to 6 months. What has it been? And I've thought about this answer because I've thought about the thing like, okay, if everything's paid off, I still want to continue doing this because this gives me the most enjoyment, although it doesn't really relate much to making money, but it fills the happiness cup or container. So what I've found out recently is I love waking up at 8:30 in the morning.
Just that's the magic time.
Yeah, it's just like
The body feels
8:30.
good. The mind
Right.
feels good.
Yeah, and it's just like something about like waking up with the sun. Like so I've been loving that, right? And then that kind of like peaceful like transition of trying to get through your day, and those moments is like kind of like I walk through my day. It's like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, this is what I have. And whether I get excited on the task, it's just that, okay, I get a chance to start something again or continue something that I worked on. The other thing is I love looking at my aquariums and looking at my plants in there. It's so serene. So that's the
Plant
event.
watcher. Who knew?
I'm a plant watcher. Today I kind of trimmed some of them because they were poking up top, and I replanted them. So it's like,
Propagated some.
yeah, so I'm propagating aquatic plants, which I was making fun of my mom because she became a plant mom over COVID. And I was like telling her like, Mom, our house is becoming a jungle now. And then all of a sudden I have jungle in the tank, and she's laughing at me now. That, and then I think the working on our health, working out has been like a top really good thing. And then having the time to cook, those are like the things that I've enjoyed the most recently. And not having to worry, it's like, oh, I need to rush cooking, or I need to like, oh, let's just go take up. It's like I feel like the only reason why I would want to do takeout because, quote unquote, I don't have time, or I didn't have enough time to prep enough, to think enough, or my brain's just fried. I don't want to think about having to make dinner. So that's my job.
Or there's a Din Tai Fung nearby.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What about you, Glenn?
Well, today I woke up at 6:05 and it was dark and it felt weird.
Ugh.
Wait. So you
Yuck.
don't wake up at 6:05?
No.
Okay.
And I woke up and I'm like, what am I doing? And then I don't know, like my body was up, but it feels weird when it's dark. Like it feels kind of like sad, kind
Yeah.
of, or like I do like the sun being out when you wake up though. You have a
Okay.
little bit more energy there.
Okay.
But to answer your question, I'd probably say I equally love working out as much as I equally love the rest day of not working out.
Ah.
So
Okay.
I love
That's
both.
good. That's a good phase to be in, right? It's like,
Yeah. I mean, I love going, but then Wednesday has really helped me to be, to spend like that family day
yeah.
to where I don't have to go and
That's
I
cool.
don't
Wednesdays
have to
are
be
off
there.
day too. We don't work out on Wednesdays.
Yeah, see, yeah, Wednesday I think is perfect for that,
It's like
and
the
I think,
hump day. Like, it's
yeah,
just,
exactly. So I love both equally. I'd
Okay.
probably say, but I can tell you that I have been struggling, like on the rest days when I go with the family and stuff, because I do feel like, and she feels it too. Sometimes I feel like I kind of rush her because I'm always constantly.
Oh, you're
doing
always on the
something.
clock. Like you
Yeah,
always
in
like
my own
have,
head.
Ah.
I'm always
But you don't have
constantly-
anything. But you feel like you have to get
Yeah,
stuff.
like I have to
going.
move on to the next
Ah.
thing, whatever that thing is. And so I don't know.
It's
It's been.
like, oh, let's get Starbucks. All right, 5 minutes is up. Let's
I
get to the next store.
Little antsy.
Yeah, I
It
don't know
is
that.
really hard though to switch gears from one day to the next day to like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that when I go on vacation, which is not very often, but it takes me like days to even like reorient
Try to-
myself to like there is no schedule.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard.
I mean, like those days that me and Ken would go to Out Hustle, and I think it was the Houston one that we had gone to like 30 something stores and had some sort of record there, I would
Yeah.
Oh my
think, because it was like nonstop. And I felt, and Ken probably felt fine. Like I felt like it was just like
Yeah.
a natural thing. Like we were
Yeah.
not tired. We're just like on to the next.
It's like
And-
9 to 2 a.m. something like that. Because Ross, before COVID, Ross used to close at 2 a.m. or something.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah, Ross.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So it's just like an
Ross, what are you
all-day
doing?
event. And I remember even going when me and the wife did go to New York, like I don't know, like I felt good. Like people were just constantly moving and doing things.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Like this is totally different from El Paso. El Paso's like so laid back that like, you know, you can even order something and they may not even get to you on time, or it's so chill, so laid back. And I'm like, this is cool. Like people are, I don't know, they have goals and they want to do things.
Well,
So-
you're not called lollygagger hacks, to be fair. You're
Yeah.
called hustler hacks for a reason.
Oh man. So now to answer your other question, what motivates you right now, but what has always motivated me though was freedom.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I struggle with when it comes to like
Now you have freedom. What do you do?
I know. Yeah, that's
I
true,
make a
too.
schedule.
I make a schedule to get me to not have the freedom. But you know what I struggle with though is like to do ads, and like obviously we've seen that too, but like I guess anything to have me to do something that I don't have control over, I struggle with. And
He wants to be the director, the producer, the filmmaker,
Freedom.
the actor, the light
Yeah.
holder, everything. Right. That
He
is
wants-
actually
He wants
that
creative freedom.
that total freedom, which is I don't know how you do it, but that is actually could be the downside of being so
Yeah.
independent for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it's hard, right? Because
Yeah.
especially with stuff that you know you could do better.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. Like listing and taking photos. Like taking photos, you cannot like me up till now. Like me and JC still fights who takes the better photo because we're really passionate about it.
Yeah.
And it's like now imagine bringing in somebody that
Yeah.
just like, oh, I'll take 12 photos and just like bam 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 bam.
Slaps him up there.
And then I'm like, you're done with 12 photos? It's like, yeah, I done all 3 pairs. And I'm like, you know, like, it's like, oh, what a disrespect. You're disrespecting the art of taking photo. I was like, so, no, I get it. I get it. What about you, Anna? What's your answer to that?
What was the question?
What's been your favorite
Oh, yeah.
daily task?
Man, there definitely are several things. Like, I feel like a lot of what both of you guys said resonated with me, but, you know, being in a new house and kind of a new situation, my favorite little ritual that has developed is having my coffee in front of, like, the fire in the fireplace in the morning. Now it's, like, cold enough to do that.
Anna's
Sounds cozy.
Anna's
so
the
cozy.
make your pot coffee person, grind your bean person.
Yeah,
and-
grind your beans
Fresh.
fresh.
Everything
Yeah.
fresh.
Totally. But that is like such a sacred moment to me, like in the morning. And partially because I love coffee and it's like super cozy, but it's also like me and John, like we start the day with like connection, you know,
Yeah.
we're connected to each other. We're like on the same page before all the stuff kicks in and starts. And I really like that. I think, a lot of times I'll, you know, spend time like writing or praying or reading like in the morning, like when in those quiet kind of moments in the beginning of the day. I used to be very much like jump up out of bed and like immediately launch into whatever I'm doing. And that is just not a good strategy for my brain to work really well throughout the whole day. So now I start the day like slow and quiet and focused, and that helps me to be focused and organized and present, you know, the whole rest of the day, and not just like rolled into a ball of chaos from the very beginning. So that's a really big one. And I do think that all the elements of that experience every day are things that I would expand more if I felt like I had the time to do it, right? So, and kind of going back to the whole thing of like, well, I've got bills to pay, like the reason that is such a motivator is because we find so much immediate purpose in that, right? It's like a logical, logistical purpose.
It's like,
to
oh,
do
you have
what we're
purpose in
doing.
your life.
Yeah, so it's really
Like, I got bills to pay.
motivating.
Bills.
But thinking about, because you're like, well, I want a roof over my head.
Yeah.
I want to have
Yeah.
food to cook. If I have time to cook dinner, like I've got to be able to afford it. You know, it's like that's a real like consideration, I think, for most people. And so I think like kind of what you're saying, Glenn, feeling like freedom is such a huge motivator, but at the same time, what that leads directly into like, well, if you have all this freedom and you don't have these kind of logistical motivators, this logistic purpose to keep your life running with money that makes your life go around, like, what is your purpose? You know, what purpose is going to drive you to help you decide and figure out what to do with that freedom? And I think that really is like the deeper question. So, you know, and we kind of like we're talking about briefly about some of these things earlier, but even financially, there's still a whole bunch of things you could focus on and set goals around and achieve, or
you could always buy a bigger house. Again, always buy a bigger
or like support
car.
Causes you care about, take care of other people who don't necessarily fall directly in your purview of care right now. True. You know, like, I don't know. There's just so many considerations, but I think ultimately it's not really about like, what are the things you could accomplish? It's more just like, what are the ways you would choose to spend your time? And would you still be motivated to like generate as much income as you can in order to achieve those type of things? Or would you go and like physically build someone a house with your own two hands? Or would you, you know, spend way more quality time with every person that you love? Like, what would you do? You know? You got to answer right now.
Well, I think...
What would you do?
Just kidding.
Oh, man. I mean, it is tough, too.
I'm throwing it all at you.
I know. And even going back to your other question, I guess, with, like, the freedom part, I also feel like there was freedom there, but as a content creator, there wasn't freedom as well, in a way. Like, I know me and Ken had done, like, Wednesday shows for, like, years straight.
Forever.
Of live shows. And, like... Even then, like our, you know, the video that I posted recently just on IG, there's still a comment. I get these all the time of like, when are you guys going to do the live show? Like, when is the live show coming back? And like,
it's like, you guys know we're in a podcast now. Like, I know. Start listening to the podcast. Like, get on.
And the thing is that it kind of sucks too, because we had done this for so long and you build this like community as well. And you want to be there for these people. But at the same time, like, I also have to be there for my family and want to be there for my family. So it's like you're free, but you're not really free when you're rushing home, getting a Wednesday live video going or live show going. And it's a tough little balance there. Like,
yeah, that's a really good point. Like, even if your financial resources were unlimited, you still have other limited resources like your time and your attention, and you know, like, you still have to prioritize things because you can't be everywhere at once forever.
I think one of the things that I watched this documentary film, living it's on Netflix. You guys should watch it. I don't know if I told Glenn. It's this guy that, so he pretty much did like biking across the world basically and accomplished that, and he was still young. He bike across continents basically, and he accomplished that, and then he was like, now what? Right? And now what? So he's stuck in and then a lot of his life was all about like breaking records, and he was the first one to do everything. Like, so now like there's no record to break. And he basically said, like, you know, and then he's really passionate about like being healthy. Obviously he had, you know, some benefits on what he did that made him break records. So now he stumbled upon like, you know, people living beyond 100. So he made a documentary film about people living beyond 100 years old. And they called them the blue zone, like places where there's higher concentration of people that made it over 100. Yeah. And it was so like diverse. Like one was up in the mountains of Japan. One was like right by the beaches of like Greece area.
Heck yeah.
One is actually in Nevada.
What?
Yeah. And I was so surprised, right?
The other one was El Paso, right?
No, one was in it's like Colombia or something like that. It's like South America, and it's like poor of poor, and I'm like, so it was like and it was so weird, and a lot of it too was like it caught me in Japan. And remember, I told this, I gave this word before, ikigai.
Yeah.
Your the reason for being, and it's one of like the four pillars that
Wow.
they attribute why they live over 100. And it's like, okay, let's unpack this. Why? So a lot of what they said, because their life had so much purpose on it that a lot of people depended on them.
Hmm.
So it brings me to a point of like being an artist or being an artisan or being a craftsman. So there's this guy that has made swords for his whole life, and now he's 100 years old still making swords.
Wow.
So his purpose is like, I have to be here for this community so they'll have great quality swords.
They need more swords.
Yeah, and I'm like, and he, and then the guy puts his crosses his legs, right, like sitting cross-legged, and can push up, carry himself up, and like push up while cross legs.
Just
And
a
100 years
beast.
old, just
Yeah.
beast.
I mean,
And
he's
I
a
was like-
blacksmith. That feels like you have to be
Right,
kinda
right.
strong
So
to
and
do
then
that.
it's like, no, now goes back to like finding your purpose beyond money, because they have said that
Yeah.
it is beyond just making money. It has to be so much deeper rooted that you have a function in the community, and you have to be there for people, right? So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how, what does purpose look like to us or to you guys that are listening? How do you find it? um I've read, one of the authors said, if you cannot state your purpose in a few words, then your purpose isn't clear.
Yeah.
And I probably took me a year. It took me a year, and it keeps that. This is the one honing thing that I repeat again over and over again to myself, that there's more to it than just making money, paying off bills. And I created mine. It was, I wanna create opportunities for other people to pursue their passion.
Mhm.
So I caught that when I started my Instagram, because I shared my story. It's like, yo, here's an opportunity so you could make money, pay the bills, and pursue what you love. And it held so long until it starts fading,
Yeah.
that maybe the impact doesn't feel as significant as what it was then, that now it's not as tangible as what it was. So how do you find purpose? Glenn, what do you think? What's your synthesize here? How do you find something?
I agree with you, and I feel like when you same thing, you hit certain milestones and you are excited about it, but also realizing that things change, and that's where also you have to make that pivot, and how do you pivot maybe when things like that do change. And like what I said before too, there's people that I would see, and what was it, even like 2 months ago, it was like, oh, you're Hustler Hacks. You're like, oh yeah, there's some guy that I saw at one of the sneaker stores, and then he's like, oh yeah, I used to watch you like in high school or whatever.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And so for me,
No,
like, I don't get offended when people say like, I used to watch you.
Right.
The
Yeah.
thing is that like there's so many like YouTubers I used to watch that I don't even know what they're doing now,
Yeah.
because times do change, because you change as a human.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
there's even where like, talking to like John, like Anna's John, talking about music and like bands and things like that. Like, do you listen to the same bands that you listened to in 2009? Maybe, maybe not. Are those bands
Yes.
still going? Yes. Are those bands still going
However,
or not?
do I listen to
Like,
their newest music, or do I
True.
listen to their music? from
They're always,
2000?
exactly, right? That's
I'm
You
not gonna
never do
answer
listen
that.
to the newest, right? You
I'm
always
pleading the
listen to
fifth
the
on
old.
that one.
She might incriminate herself.
I'm just a crotchety old lady that likes what I liked.
yeah,
a
like
long
what I
time
like.
Yeah.
I like what
And is that mean to say like, well, I don't listen to I used to listen to you
I
in high
used to
school.
listen
Yeah.
to you. Yeah. I listened to Yester You.
All right.
Yeah.
But things change, right?
do
Anna? So what do you
change.
think?
Yeah, what's a deeper purpose beyond just, because like, right, like I think it's way less talked about
Yeah.
like I feel like the most responsible people are the ones that provide for their family and pay the bills. I'm like, that's it?
Yeah, right. I mean, I think when you love your family and you love your people, like that's extremely motivating, right? You feel that burden
Yeah.
of responsibility, like you're
Yeah.
saying, but also like I think this has been really true for me, and really it goes also back to my friends Aaron and Ryan that you were talking about, Ken, who have the smokehouse smoked
Yeah.
pepper jelly. We should link to their store in the show notes because
Yeah.
it's so good. But they are a couple of people. They are a people. They're not like a
Yeah.
whole people group themselves, but
Yeah.
both of them, they have a family. You know, they have kids and lots of other family members that they care about, and like they have a really strong sense of family. But they are both, each of them, Aaron and Ryan, are both like very multi-passionate, multi-purpose people. Like Ryan, I don't know if you know this, Ken, or if you talk to them about it, but Ryan is like an incredible architect. That's actually what he's trained as.
Yeah, that's what he said, right?
Yeah.
He went to school for it.
And
then-
he's really really
Yeah.
passionate about it,
Yeah.
you know. And Aaron is like a world-class tap dancer. Like
Yeah.
like absolutely mind-blowing, award-winning, incredible tap dancer and choreographer.
and she didn't pursue it to make money.
No.
Because there are other things like I've heard her say
Yeah,
that.
and she had a
she
whole
needs
other
to-
career
yeah.
besides that too before
She has
this
to
pepper
kind of like
jelly
she wants to
thing.
be a mom for the kids, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much something that it's not there's a lot of things that you can't do both together. There has to be
Yeah.
a trade-off.
But I do
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting, and maybe somewhat comes down to like worldview a little bit. Like for me, definitely like faith ties into this because I'm the same way. Like I've had a more sequential sense of purpose where I feel like I've had multiple purposes, and I
Mhm.
don't think
Yeah.
it's all just revolves around like what you do.
Right.
But like for me personally, you know, something I fundamentally believe is that like God has a purpose for my life. God has
Right.
a plan for my life. And so I don't know what that looks like from one year to the next or from
Right.
one phase of life to the next, but I'm like totally fine with it changing over time, I guess. And in my experience, like it has changed over time. And I think that's, for me, like it totally rings true that that's just part of growing and developing, you know, not just like in a spiritual formation way,
Right.
but just as a human being. Like we do grow and change, and our priorities change, and our situations change, and our social circles change, our abilities change. Like everything is always changing. So why would we have to limit ourselves to like
one
one
and
purpose
done.
that is supposed to have all the pressure of carrying us through our whole life in every situation? And yet I know other people who are like the kind of people who are like, I've wanted to be a doctor since I was 5 years
and
old,
that they can,
and I'm going
right?
to see
Then
patients
they,
till
like,
the
they
day I
did it,
die.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
No,
I mean that is true for some people. That's not how I function,
that is a
but there's room for that too.
There
Yeah.
is a self-awareness on that.
Yeah.
And I think
For
I
sure.
know for a fact, like when I was young I wanted to be a pilot, and then now I just want to sit behind a pilot. You know what I'm saying? Like
You're like,
way
nah,
fu-
you can
Nah,
take
you
it."
can drive. You got this, right? I was like,
can
I'll just
drive.
pay you. I was like, I don't know how to, I don't want to figure out how to park this. But knowing that, right? Like, what's other something bigger, or is it? Do we have to shift our perspective to kind of like like the sentiment of like, okay, it fades away. Does it fade away because we don't condition our mind to actually keep
like appreciating it or
appreciating the impact that you actually make in each step? For example, right? Like Glenn, our journey of Out Hustled. Like we literally hand in hand help people, take their family to Disney, pay off certain debts, and 3x their business hand in hand, and we have numbers to prove. And
Yeah.
we've seen improvements, but at that very moment it felt like the purpose was so clear and it was right in front of us.
yeah.
But the moment we stop doing that, or we move on to bigger things or different things, did we just not try to even quantify things, or do we just not try to expose ourselves like, like your hi and hello to this person, appreciating this, impacted his family because he went home in a great mood, and all of a sudden it elevated them. or that inspiration that you've done paying your student loan inspired me too, then it elevated their family. You know, like I think those are the things that we don't see, or if we don't seek it out, or if we don't track it, or if we don't look at it at that lens, we're probably just too busy. I was like, oh, I need to pay my bills so I can make content so I can inspire people. But what if it's about like make content and discover the people that gets impacted and possibly benefits the content that I made? I feel like just throwing your art out there, and correct me if I'm wrong, throw your art out there, throw your creative things, and you just, there has to a point that you sit back and actually look at people's reaction to the art that you have made and appreciate that reaction. Although you didn't make the art for the reaction, but I'm just saying, like, tracing the impact that it made.
I think most of the time, people who, at least in any kind of consistent way, right, make art or create anything, like, everything to some degree is created to be shared. Like, do we have our own private poetry or something that we write, or are we doing something just because we enjoy it, not because we're trying to monetize it? Mm-hmm. Yes, of course, but, like, I think that's hardwired into us as humans too, that like if we make something, most of the time, for most intents and purposes, it's to be shared. Right. And like that there is like an inherent purpose in that, not necessarily like doing it for the likes,
right, even
but
I think that's kind of like the fuel that gets back to you.
Yeah,
right?
Because otherwise wouldn't you have just like so many artists across many different disciplines of art just being like, I'm just going to make this because I like it and just keep it in my closet. Like, you know, like, no, it's meant to be experienced. Like, that's the point. And I feel
like that's the pinnacle of, you know, like when you're trying to create an impact, I feel like the ultimate goal is to actually have people enjoy it and get affected positively by it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what I feel like we lose the vision. We start, is that like too focused on the product that we lose the eyes to see the enjoyment of the product in people's hands?
Well, I think I guess maybe the issue is just how quickly things go by. And so like I appreciated everything that we had done and the people that we had met and the workshops we have done, but it's also like, when's the next one?
Yeah, it's like not gonna hold you. That moment in time's not gonna like hold you forever.
It's easy to track if it was repeatable, right? Mm-hmm. Because now all of a sudden it's like, oh, we'll just get the next 50 people in. But what if we live a life on kind of like what we live right now, that there's pivots made, right? So let's just say you're in a one category and you're impacting so many people in this category. And then now you shift category, you shift platform, kind of like Glenn shifting to Whatnot. Now all of a sudden, that same impact is hard to track the same way he tracked the eBay impact.
Yeah.
The easiest factor to track it is money. But the impact of people is hard.
Yeah.
Right?
It is
because
hard.
It's not the same formula. You have to create another formula of trying to appreciate the impact that you're doing in a different platform, selling different products.
It's just like it's a totally different ball game there. And man, going to like the workshops and everything is really, really cool. But how many times, like I remember going to the San Diego one and they're like, when are you coming to Miami? Like, when are you coming to Seattle? When are you going to New York? And when you and Ken going to be here? And, you know, you do want to do all of these things, but at the same time, you know, like Ken said too, is like financially too, and your own health, and then your own family. And then there's so many factors that come into play as well, that you got to see what you want to help as much people as you can, or meet as many people as you can, and you know, have that experience. But time, when also I want to think about like 2018, 2019, when people are looking for side hustles, and that's something that they could, you know, relate to when they see Ken's IG or my videos, and they're like, hey, I can get into this, I can do this. And then more people start to catch on, and then 2020 happens, and then things change there, and then the market changes, 2022, and then
Now it's not so inspirational selling sneakers. To
yeah,
make
how
$10
many
profit.
how many people went back to work, or how many
Yeah.
people were like, well, maybe the side hustle isn't really working for me right now.
Yeah.
Like maybe I can do this instead, and then they pivot to something else, and so as I guess we mentioned Gary Vee earlier, might as well mention him again, where it says market is the market is the market. And so
Yeah.
It'll
when
tell
that
you.
changes too,
Yeah.
things are going to change in general for you if you're, I guess, when it comes to that business side of things.
But
I
that's
I don't
does
think
your
that's-
purpose change, Anna, on that one?
Yeah,
Should
well,
your purpose change, or should you shift something?
I think like just thinking about working within the realm of reality, like this whole thing is a hypothetical question, but working in the realm
No, it
of
could be
reality.
real. It's
Yeah,
real
well,
for this guy soon.
I think I think our bias as people is to more or less assume that things are way more permanent than they are. So, it's like you're saying, the market can change. Like we're always changing. Our situation is changing. Like I think it's
Someone
actually
could pass away. I mean,
Yeah.
Right. And
know?
and that's and talking about that, Anna, and I think this is contrast view to what you just said. A lot of people think it's permanent, but the more I think that things are not permanent, the more I feel like crap, my time's running out.
yeah.
So that's what that sentiment is coming from for me, the way I see it. It's
Yeah.
like, crap, I only have 40 good years.
Well, that's pessimistic.
I'm not gonna hit 100.
You're not gonna go make swords in the mountains of Japan and do like push-ups.
No,
when
like
you're
good years
105?
of being able to run.
Yeah.
Like, oh well, I'm gonna break a record. I'm gonna run up when I'm 100. Put it this way, right?
There
So,
you go. Now you
so-
have a new purpose. You better start training.
Yeah. So, and I think that's the two polar opposite thinking still gets you in that question.
Yeah, and I feel like, I guess something I kind of fundamentally believe about people is that it benefits us to have
A long term.
purpose, to have a goal, even if that changes throughout time.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, some of us are living our best life and we don't want things to ever change, but they're going to at some
But-
point.
but
Even
do
like
you
you're talking
real-
about running. Someday you
But
won't be
we-
able to run like you can
Yeah,
run now.
but sometimes we don't realize that this is the
Yeah.
best life.
Yeah, sometimes we don't. But I think that ability to kind of adapt and identify a new purpose, or if not a new purpose, maybe the same purpose but channeled a different way with a different goal or in a different setting. Like, I think that is a really important ability for people to have, because more times than not, things end up changing, So I don't know. I feel like whether you're somebody who struggles with like feeling stagnant or I don't know, or not, like probably if you this is best measured in hindsight, right? Like look back to your life 10 years ago. Even Glenn, I was thinking like look back to when you paid off your student loans. At that time, were you already thinking like, well, maybe I should have just paid off my house first instead, or like, like were you thinking I'm going to apply this like way bigger and better and hit this other goal, this other unbelievable goal at a super young age, right? Like for like, this is super highly unusual what you're doing, paying off your house at the age you are and the amount of time you've owned the house and everything. And you're basically just applying the same principles and the same purpose and the same motivation and the same consistency as per usual to achieve that. And so anyway, when you were looking into paying off your loans in the first place, did you ever imagine you'd be doing this now and already? And can you see an even bigger and better version of this now?
Yeah.
In the future?
Okay. Answer that, Glenn. Did you think now when you decide like, oh, I'm gonna make double payments, I'm gonna
Let
make
me
this
ask you
faster.
4 questions and you can answer all of them.
Well, when I paid off the student loans, I didn't have a house yet, so I didn't really know
what house entails. Right?
Yeah, or like how I was even gonna go from there, or like what that even really looked like. And even me getting the house, even though the houses were a lot cheaper back then, like and interest rates and everything, I didn't really know to what extent of like how difficult that would actually be and how many payments you really needed to make. And I even thought the whole idea of like 30-year loans was already kind of crazy. I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
it's so
Like,
long.
yeah, it's super long. Like
It's
so,
so long.
how much changes in 30 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
know?
want this
Well,
house
for
after
us.
30.
Every like 5 years, there's like
Yeah, right.
After 10, I
some
don't want
new,
this.
some fresh hell. No.
So even that whole idea was kind of like shocking to me too. But yeah, I guess I didn't know. But even then, to me, whatever I made money wise at that time to pay off the student loans felt like a lot to me,
Yeah.
you know, and that's
Yeah.
totally different than what it is now. So
Yeah,
I didn't really
but it was
know
still a
what that could've been.
sacrifice, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
sacrifice is part of his
And
daily
discipline.
routine.
yeah.
Sacrifice for the
Wake
daily
up.
routine.
It's like,
Deny yourself.
yeah, eat and then sacrifice more.
Actually, you do. I remember you talking about how you would like, I don't know if you would ship stuff or you'd go and do something first and then
Yeah,
have
he said
breakfast.
he won't eat. Yeah, he
Yeah,
won't
you
eat.
like
yeah.
you get in your you fully get in your car and drive somewhere before you let yourself eat breakfast.
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh,
Is
yeah,
that still
was-
true?
No, I haven't done that in a while. That's not good. This guy's got to eat.
So hardcore.
I know.
But yeah, I guess I guess in closing, I think that's the ultimate challenge in life. I think that's you know, we've heard, you know, people say like the journey is the prize, right? I think Kobe said that, Glenn, right? Like I think the reward is the journey to actually get to do what you love to do, excel in what you love to do. But I think also in his situation, it seemed very lateral or very straight line, because it's like at the end of the day, it was career, right? It was a career driven move. But for small business owner or people that are not in a lane, it's like, to be honest, I'm not that kind of person. I mean, as you've noticed, me and Glenn said, like, okay, we're here on eBay selling Ross, and we're not gonna be like, we're gonna sell Ross all for the rest of our lives and
Yeah.
stay there, and then just, you know, wait till they use our photos to be the model of Ross. Like, we
I
didn't
swear
plan that.
there are people
Huh?
who think your name is Ross. I know that.
Yeah,
those people
yeah,
out
there is. You know, so I think
Ross
that's
and
the
Marshall. Those are your
Marshall.
aliases.
that's the
Burlington.
biggest.
Burlington.
Yeah, Burlington. Yeah. That's like the biggest challenge, and I mean there's no easy answer. I think
Let me ask you this way, Ken. Just full circle back to our actual
Yeah.
original question. If money were, like, if all your bills were paid, right,
Mm-hmm.
and beyond, would you still be doing what you're doing? But I don't want you to think about it like, would you still be selling sneakers on the internet? I want you to think, would you still be creating opportunities for people to pursue their passions?
I would. I actually know the answer. Like I would do everything that I said I love still, probably in bigger scopes, probably
Yeah.
build
Right.
bigger aquariums and go to other people's house and build them aquariums so they could find, you know, like some solace in their house in that kind of artistic way. And then I would actually would want to work on cars all day and videotape it and teach tutorials on how to change parts and brakes. That I feel like that's the next.
Yeah.
So
How about you,
from
Glenn?
here to there, I don't know.
Would you still be doing what you're doing, and what is it that you're doing?
Well, if I could sell on eBay and whatnot forever, I would be very, very happy. I mean, that doesn't, you
Yeah.
know, I think it still gives me that freedom that I want to do. But then even after doing this, like, I don't know, is like my next thing since freedom was my goal from the beginning, is my next
Now
step
you're
to
free.
be teaching people
Now you're
how
free. What do you do?
yeah, to have them reach that freedom.
Yeah.
Or like to teach them, like, maybe
Paying
the
it
steps that I
forward.
had taken to
Mm.
like get to this point, and maybe people want to do that as well. Or is it one of those like give back type of things, to where, like Anna said too, do I give back in a certain way that's totally different now too, that I'd never be able to do before because I was so, you know, in that
Busy,
grind
right.
to
Yeah.
reach this goal. So I just feel like I'm not done yet, I guess. Like,
What
and
does a whole bean Glenn look like?
I know,
Before
it's-
the grind.
before the grind. And it is kind of tough because you reach a goal to where, like, cool, you have like the YouTube plaque and you got all these subs, and like that was very, if you look at how many people have a YouTube plaque compared to how many people have a college degree, the stats are very, very low on the getting a YouTube plaque is very, very, hard
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get to
yeah.
that. And so
Yeah.
I almost feel too, if I don't do anything with it, you do feel kind of like it's a waste. Like you built something,
Right.
and then what do you do when it hits to
Yeah,
a
it's
certain
like-
point?
Yeah, you built
Yeah.
a car that you love and you don't drive it, you just put it in your garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
You gotta take it to a car show.
I'm
bro.
not suggesting that you do this, but I could also see you getting one of those like squirrel suits where you can jump off of like mesas and glide around in the air and like become an adrenaline junkie because of the whole
Oh.
freedom thing. Like maybe you need
yeah.
a season where you experience extremely visceral freedom, like
You
flying
do
through
like
the air
extreme
like a squirrel.
sports, Glenn, like
Extreme
rally, like motocross
see it.
or bike. I mean, you have to live a little.
I could
All
see
before
myself.
breakfast.
I could see myself more of like a raccoon and going through the trash and trying to find stuff to resell.
Oh,
Right.
you're
Well-
gonna be the what do you call that? The dumpster divers that
Yeah.
Dumpster
gets
diver.
Oh, man.
that gets caught, right? And then
I
then you
follow
make
some
a
of those
video out of
accounts.
it.
They're super fun to watch.
What are you doing, sir? Well, I'm financially free and I really don't know what to do.
And
so
I'm
just going
choosing
through the
to be in
trash.
this dumpster
Yeah.
for funsies. My purpose is here somewhere in this dumpster.
I have yet to meet a person who's like, "Hey, what do you do?" I'm financially free.
What do you?
Whatever I want.
That's a random.
Yeah.
What do you
question.
do for
That's
a
random
living? What do you
answer.
mean? I'm
Yeah.
financially free.
Yeah. I think even having the option to do whatever you want is still going to fall flat if you don't have a sense of purpose.
Yeah. No,
No,
honestly.
for real.
Yeah,
That's why a lot of
exactly.
people go to like do negative things in life.
Yeah.
Because they think it's there, right? Like the high,
Mm-hmm.
the abuse of substance and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
they think it's there, but
Yeah,
we all know
Yeah.
it's
It's not,
super
and-
temporary.
yeah,
It has
It's
to be
not.
like deeper impact and purpose beyond yourself. I feel like your purpose and goals have to be way bigger than that.
Then you.
Maybe if it's big enough, then if you bought a house expensive enough that you cannot pay it off on your lifetime, then the journey is definitely the price.
Yeah. All
You
right.
buy some like $2 million home,
Oh,
and you're just
man.
like, well, here's my next goal, guys. Pay
Yeah,
this off.
it's my next
Yeah,
goal to
in
pay
my
it off.
lifetime. Not, leave.
And then Glenn
Debt to
Glenn
my
does
debt.
it in like half of the time. I was like, dang it. Bank's like, sir, we can't grant you a loan because it's really past your livable age, but it's time the loan matures.
Right? You mentioned about being over 100, so my
yeah,
grandma's
you're
gonna
like,
be
whoa,
102.
whoa, whoa. Don't underestimate me.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what
exactly.
I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
wow.
In
I
2
think-
months, my grandma will be 102.
Oh my gosh.
So-
There you go.
There you go.
So I don't know. I mean, nobody knows how
in
long
your
they're gonna
genes.
live, but that is, man, to go over 100 is insane. And
Right.
And your grandma still can talk, right?
yeah,
Everything.
she
right?
just got a hip
See?
replacement at 100,
Holy
and so
moly.
they're rebuilding her like a Terminator.
She is titanium.
Yeah, so like this is.
Wow.
Well, I mean, what is your life purpose when you hit 100?
Glenn,
Become bionic.
this is what you need to do. You need to ask. You need to talk to your grandma and ask her, like, "Hey, grandma, what got you to 102?"
What got you to this point?
Yeah.
Well, she actually got diabetes when she was late 30s.
Oh, weird.
What?
Yeah, and so she had.
So everything was health-wise, it was against her, but
Yeah,
something.
health-wise-
She has a secret. She has a secret, Glenn. You gotta figure it out.
Health wise was not there, and it's kind of funny though when they did tell her that you're diabetic, she quit all of that food that she was eating and just went all in on like, okay, well, I'm gonna take care of myself from here on out,
Wow.
and has lasted since then.
Did
So
she
it's
like
in-
reverse it?
I'm
Well,
sure.
I mean, yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, she did, but she stayed so like persistent in discipline, like Ken said, like
Yeah.
after that.
So it's in Glenn's blood. And
I was gonna say, so Glenn got it from his grandma.
Yeah, it's from grandma.
Noted.
Yeah.
That's
No,
incredible.
No
That is
sweets,
insane.
No ice cream.
100 something. But
Wow. From 30 to 102, she's
70
pretty
years.
yeah,
she said no to things that could physically harm her, basically.
and lived an extra 40 years after my grandpa passed away.
Wow.
Because he died at 65, which is like pretty young,
Oh
Wow, that is young.
and still lived,
Yeah.
you know. how
So
many
it
years
wasn't
after
it
that.
wasn't the getting married. All the single people. It's not the getting married
Yeah.
part that gets you to 100 to 100.
One last question though for you guys though. Let's talk about legacy real quick though, because you mentioned legacy on here though. I mean,
Legacy.
I
What
mean,
is a
yeah,
legacy?
what is
Had to drop a
legacy?
Hamilton line in there for you guys.
Yeah. And I feel like for, I mean, I do want, of course, like my daughter to be proud and things that like her dad has done.
Yeah.
So, you know, as like sellers or having your own business, and that's important for legacy too. Be like, hey, I did this on my own, and I mean through
Yeah.
of course the platform of
Yeah.
eBay, but you know it's not easy doing any of this and being whether you're a seller or a content creator.
Yeah.
But let me ask you guys, I guess for legacy wise, or maybe there is a bigger thing that you want to do that has nothing to do with this. I mean, I don't know. What does
Yeah.
that legacy look like? Before we go.
No, I think one of the things that I want to do
Just
is like
a really light question.
I know.
I know. I think this is heavy. I think I've had this in my back of my head. Hopefully, my parents are not listening. I want to talk to them someday and be like, what's something that you really want to get done before you kick the bucket,
Mm.
and just
Make it happen.
Make it happen.
make it happen.
That's cool.
And I know for a fact, I don't know if it's still the same, that one of my mom's dream is to have an orphanage for like the orphans.
Mm.
So like I already know like that's gonna
Ken's
be a
Christmas
tough one.
kids. Shoot.
That's gonna be a tough one, you know, like and
Yeah.
I feel like if I shift to that focus, boy do I have a purpose.
I was like, you will never let go.
Yeah, boy.
If you start,
Right, next thing
yeah.
you know, I'll have, you know, a bunch of little kids calling me Uncle Ken, you know what I'm saying? And then like now
Yeah.
I'll have all these kids. So, you know, like, I think that's legacy for me. It has to be, I feel like it has to be something not just mine, that
Yeah.
I buy into it, that it's so big that
Yeah.
I'd have to have somebody else finish it too.
Yeah.
So that's legacy. I
and
think
to
that's how
like
I see it.
continue, right? Like to
Yeah.
perpetuate
It can't be
mean,
like a one and done thing, right? Because at that point, it's like you don't really, you know, like nobody remembers you at that point, right? Like it's like there has to be like something long term effect, which is like impact, right? Like next thing
Yeah.
you know, these kids grow up and they start supporting the cause because they got out of that,
Yeah.
you know, thing. So that's that. I feel like that's legacy, and
Okay.
I feel
Yeah.
like we all have to figure that out. And I think
I do feel like there's a financial piece of it still for me, like for our family. Like we don't have kids yet, but we want to. And like when we got married, we had like nothing, you know, like we didn't like.
my kids are
start-
gonna have nothing like I did.
Yeah.
like I'm gonna
That's the
spend it all.
legacy.
No, but like I think the idea, not just like generational wealth in terms
Yeah.
of money, but also in terms of like, I don't know, like the life lessons and the
Yeah.
entrepreneurship piece of it, like handing down something that they can pick up and use, not just like a chunk of money, but a chunk of money would also be nice.
Yeah.
You know, but I think just kind of having the next generation of our family start out with more resources and more stability than we had is really important to me. But I think like that's not even as big as my whole entire sense of legacy for my life. I mean, as broadly speaking as I can, like I want people's lives to be brighter and improved in some way because I interacted with them in some way. You know, that's
Yeah.
extremely vague, but I just think there's a lot of room for like that kind of purpose to be worked out in my relationships with people. I think relationship is the most important thing. So
Yeah.
there are definitely other secondary goals that relate to that, but it only matters because people matter. So that's kind of what it comes down to.
I like that.
Got it. All right.
Well-
So that is it. I mean, that was a longer show.
We made it, guys.
We made
We
it.
made it. So guys, make sure you follow us on Instagram at Seller Club Podcast, and also our sponsors Seller Ledger and eBay for Sellers on IG. Link in the description. And also we're inviting you to an event that's going to be happening this month. RSVP down, click below. Let's support Reflections of Trinity with our good friend Lori Wong.
Speaking of
and
legacy,
we will see you. Speaking of legacy, that
For
is a
real.
legacy
Queen
right
of
there.
legacy, yes.
And we will see you in the next one. Peace.
See ya.
Bye.